but back to school. I am 23. I just got my progress report this morning that proves it's going really well. And I wanted to talk to you about how that could maybe be possible for you and how I guess I made that possible for me. If you are new here, hello, my name is Rosalie, and this is kind of an interesting place for you to be meeting me at, but an exciting one. So before we hop into everything that I have to say, let's go ahead and get started with some clips that I have from my orientation a couple months ago now. I'm recording to you from orientation. I'm sitting in a corner by myself eating my lunch because I'm very shy. It's been good. It's been really good. I got a whole tour of the campus, which is actually really nice. It's in a really beautiful area of the city, and I'm feeling really excited. There's a lot of extracurricular programs and a lot of community resources that I wasn't expecting. And you know I'm all about that stuff, so I can't wait. Right now I am procrastinating because I need to go meet with an academic and financial advisor. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm feeling so anxious today, but I'm trying to not label myself as an anxious person. You know, my therapist warns me against that. Speaking of which, I have a psych appointment in like an hour and a half, so I really need to hurry. But that's a different tangent. That's a different vlog. Let's do it, I suppose. Okay, I just finished admissions. Everybody is so nice. It's like unbelievable how nice everybody is. I feel like in my last schools, every single time I talked to someone from admin or any member of the staff, it was like I was bothering them so much. So that's a green flag. I'm very excited. Need to talk to financial aid. I feel like such an adult, but this is just a message for you. If you are nervous, if you get anxious, if these things look really hard and insurmountable, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. We'll do it together. Hello. I am back at school. I just finished an assessment for math. It was so crazy to be testing again in a traditional setting. It was very serious. So many rules. Now I am waiting to meet with an academic advisor. I tried to stop by the accessibility office, but I need to meet with my academic advisor first. And right now I'm considering a coffee. Yeah, just kind of strolling around, getting used to the campus, looking at the resources. I'm so excited about all the clubs. And I'm scared someone's gonna walk in. So I need to stop recording. Hello, today is my first day of school. We have already run into kind of I don't want to say a roadblock, maybe like a little trip in the road. I had planned to spend the morning at the library. Unbeknownst to me, the library is closed, which I could have easily found out if I just did a quick Google search, but I did not. Happy Monday. I really wanted to go to my actual campus for my first day of school, even though my classes are online, just for the experience, just for, you know, the sake of it. But it's on the other side of town. It just didn't make sense logistically with everything that I have to do today. And it is 108 degrees today. So I think I've finally learned my lesson about trying to walk in this kind of weather. It exhausts me. So I will be going to campus when it makes more sense. But today I'm just leaning into the gratitude of being able to do school from anywhere. And thankfully, I mean, there's not gonna be a lot to do today. It's gonna be like syllabuses and introducing myself, so it's really not that deep. I wanted to show you me packing my tote with everything I need. I was rushing this morning because I slept in, because I stayed up until 3 a.m. watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I did cry. Thank you very much. So we're getting a less than ideal start to back to school season, but that's okay. That's okay. You know, we'll ease into it. It's fine. Yeah. Happy fall semester. I hope if you are going back to school, you are prioritizing your mental health and have access to everything that you need. I know that's a huge stressor always, but especially during this time. And if you are first gen, if you deal with imposter syndrome, if you come from an immigrant family and are halfway terrified that what you put on the FAFSA is going to land you into hot trouble with the IRS, I see you and I feel you, and I hope that you know there's a space for you in academia and in the world, and because of you, so many other people are going to feel inspired to do the same. I would not have gone back to school this semester if it hadn't been from my Latina therapist who inspired me to do what I want to do. Representation matters. That's such a corny thing to say, but it really does. It's the whole point of this vlog. Yeah, I hope you have a good semester. I really believe in you. Give it all you got. Give them hell. Échale ganas. But at the same time, remember that you are not defined by your performance. Your worth is not dependent upon how successful you are, and your ranking in a class or anywhere, I believe in you. Let's do this together. I'm gonna hop on and take a look at the syllabus, introduce myself, and do what I gotta do and keep you updated. And I have officially submitted all of my assignments for my first week back to school, and I'm so proud of myself. So cute, huh? So cute, so cute. I love looking back on those clips because I can still feel how nervous I was and just how excited I was. It wasn't until honestly pretty recently, like within the last couple weeks, that it has really dawned on me that I am actually a college student again. Like, I'm not kidding, like it's not a bit. I'm actually in college again. It's a cool feeling. It's less about the fact that I'm in school and more about the fact that I'm doing something that A, I said I wanted to do, and B, that I said I wanted to do for a very long time. More than anything, it is about the commitment to myself, and not only the commitment to myself, but also the way that I've been able to do things so much better this time. That's a whole other topic in itself. So let's start there. Let me paint you a picture. When I graduated high school, I was still 17. I didn't turn 18 until the late fall of that year. So halfway through my first semester of college, which was weird because I had all of these adult responsibilities, but I wasn't technically an adult. So there was a lot that I couldn't legally do. I was working full-time. I was in school full-time. I was going in person. So none of my classes were virtual, obviously, if that's what in person means. I was in a new city where I didn't really know anybody. And the big kicker here is that unbeknownst to me at the time, maybe not unbeknownst, I probably knew, but I was living with several mental health conditions that were at the time undiagnosed, and little did I know would very severely need to be treated in some due time. Long story short, it simply was not a sustainable system that I could keep relying on to get me through 4, 6, 8 years of school, depending on what my passions were, which in itself was a huge problem. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I think similarly to so many other people who start college, I had all of these ideas, all of these passions, all of these hobbies, but I didn't know what exactly I wanted to hone in on. And personally, I had such a dilemma with finding a harmonious balance between what I was passionate about and also something that would be a service to the world. You know, you can circle the ethics drain for years and years and years, and I have. You know, if I get into international development, I am contributing to gentrification. If I go into business, I am selling my soul to capitalism, and I better make sure that I am able to pay my employees a living wage and offset my carbon output. You know, there's just so many different factors to consider, and I caught myself there for such a long time. All of that to say, I was very stubborn in my attempts to keep going. There I was re-enrolling, there I was refusing to drop hours at work, there I was compromising something at all times, whether it be nutrition or sleep or time with friends or family, my mental health, whatever the case might be, something always had to give. And in the end, I decided to take a break, which was of course the only logical thing to do. Looking back, I'm very proud of myself for making that decision because I think that there is such a stigma around taking a break or a gap year or even leaving school without the intention to return. I am representation for the fact that you can take a gap year or a few gap years and actually end up going back. But there's also no shame in realizing that an educational path is not specifically for you. There are such heavily impactful factors to consider, like student debt and the state of the economy and whether or not you're going to get a considerable return when you enter your career field. People's lives and circumstances differ so much that it's just simply not fair to assume that we all want the same things and that every path is going to suit each of us the same. It's not realistic, and I think we all know that by now. But this was a few years ago, and at the time I was still kind of weighed down by certain expectations, and there was a lot of limiting beliefs that I hadn't yet worked through in therapy, and I had a much meaner inner critic. I had a much meaner inner dialogue that I've thankfully since very much minimized. I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was able to take time away because I am now in better standing. If you have been following this channel, you would know that I've been very transparent about being in treatment earlier this year for some mental health issues. It's something that I will be living with for the rest of my life and treating for the rest of my life. I've been in therapy for 3 years now, undergoing psychiatric treatment for almost a year now. well, I just started this year, but I have implemented such better work-life boundaries. I have ridded myself of this pressure to be a full-time college student and a full-time employee, and given myself permission to be part-time with one of those things. I have so much more balance in my life. I am so much better at boundary setting. I'm so much better at advocating for myself. I'm so much more in tune with what I value and what I want to do and what I want to contribute to the world and what my non-negotiables are. And I really do think that it's because of those things I am able to be a healthily functioning college student who is also an employee in the corporate world, and a pet mom, and a partner to someone, and a friend, and a member of a book club, and someone who loves pottery. It is one of the best choices that I have ever made for myself, and the results say everything. Okay, she's excelling. Her grades are beautiful. Her sleep schedule is beautiful. Her work life is doing okay, but that is a different story. I'm fostering kittens and changing the world in that aspect. Like, I feel so confident in the ways that I'm able to show up, not only academically, but just personally and professionally, because I took a break and because I got the resources that I needed. A very pivotal moment for me throughout this process was confronting the self-limiting beliefs that I had around being a child of immigrants, and thus a person who very heavily associates the way you make a living with suffering. I have the utmost respect for my birth parents and my adoptive parents and the ways in which they have created lives for themselves after going through the unfathomable journey of migrating to a different country and acclimating to a different culture and learning a different language. I am so in awe of that amazing feat every single day. But if you are familiar at all with those circumstances, or if you are directly affected by those circumstances, you are so painstakingly aware of the crevice that those people and those families are forced to fit into, where they're grasping at straws. You have to be grateful for what you have. You can't ask for more. You cannot ruffle any feathers. You cannot advocate for yourself. You can't ask for more, because half the time the people who are doing you a favor by employing you don't see you as a real person. There is just so much ugliness, so much absurdity in that entire realm. And so I think subconsciously I carried this idea that I was just supposed to go to school to say I did, to honor the struggles that my family had survived to get me to that point. I never really believed that even when I did hold a degree, I would be worthy of a career that made me feel fulfilled. And even if I did, it's the age-old cliche of constantly feeling imposter syndrome. And I'm definitely not oblivious to the fact that I am white passing. You put me next to the rest of my family and I simply don't fit, both appearance-wise and personality-wise. That's a conversation for another day. And so I can't imagine how much harder this would have been if I wasn't white passing, if I wasn't someone who was able to speak two languages. I mean, my sister is also white passing, but she had a more difficult experience than I did because she spoke Spanish as her first language, not her second, and she was bullied so badly for that when she first started school. So I'm grateful, but there's all these feelings of, again, but there's all these feelings of, and there it is. There's me wanting to mock myself again before I say what I say. Age-old cliche, but it's valid. It is cliche, but it's cliche for a reason because so many people feel it. Of not being Latina enough, also not being American enough, also not having a history of people who are financially literate or familiar with the academic system or living anywhere beyond paycheck to paycheck. It's a very complicated place to exist. Being the child of immigrants and wanting to find your place in the world and also honor your culture and also be happy and also have stability. So yeah, don't have the answers to that, but I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I know it's not a feeling that is unique to me. Please be gentle. It's very difficult for me to talk about because I feel so ridiculous discussing these things as somebody who's white passing, but it is a very real part of my experience. No matter what I look like, I am very Latina. No matter what I look like, that is just a fact. That is reality. That is literally my genetic makeup, no matter how much I gaslight myself into thinking that I'm not valid. So yeah, I've spent the last few years dissecting trauma, dissecting worldview, implementing a lot of different methods of self-care, moving halfway across the country, giving myself permission to change my mind and to grow. And I think the reason why I have been able to be successful in a literal sense by an actual measurable academic metric, and also on a moral level, you know, I consider it a success to be succeeding in school and also be flourishing in all other areas of my life: sleep, nutrition, social, hobbies, personal fulfillment, all of that. I consider that a bigger success. And I think that the reason why those two things are possible is because I took a step away. And because I really didn't go back until I was ready. It wasn't about anybody else. It wasn't about societal expectations. It wasn't about pursuing a career that would make my family proud. It wasn't about being able to post grad photos on Instagram. Like, it wasn't about anything but me. It wasn't about anything but the fact that I'm so excited and empowered by the degree that I'm pursuing and the things that I'm gonna do for the world. And I just love learning. I'm in a Mexican American studies class this semester, which is just the coolest thing. Yeah, I just feel so incredibly grateful. I don't want this video to come across as me being anything other than that, because there is space to hold for being grateful for the opportunity to get an education and also acknowledge the trials and tribulations that come with not being a member of the elite. You know, my experience probably would have been much, much easier if I wasn't self-supporting from a very young age, if I wasn't needing to work full-time to keep a roof over my head and get groceries and pay the phone bill and pay the internet and put food in my dog's bowl and also buy books and pay tuition. Like, my circumstances would have been very, very different if I had more support, if I had financial support, emotional support, physical support. And that's okay. And I don't resent anybody who does have that kind of support. I think that's so wonderful for them. But it took me a very long time to acknowledge that as a factor and not an excuse. For a very long time, I felt like even though there was so much overcompensating that I had to do, I wasn't allowed to acknowledge it because that was pathetic of me. But the truth is, other people, even some of my friends in the past, and this is not a moral failure, it's just a convenience, it's just a fortunate benefit that they had, that I'm glad that they had, that I simply didn't have. My very own friends who had parents who were, you know, letting them live in their homes rent-free while they went to college, letting them use the family car while they were in college, paying for 10, 20, 50, 70, 100% of their tuition when they were in college, providing meals for them when they were in college. You know, all of those things made their college life easier. And it's okay for me to acknowledge that my experience was harder and is harder, because when you are fully self-supporting and you are trying to get a degree and hold a job and do all the things that humans do on a daily basis, it is simply impossible to not have some kind of fallout. It is simply impossible not to struggle. But that's okay. I have learned that, you know, maybe being in school full-time and working full-time would get me to finish my degree faster. But maybe it wouldn't, because maybe I would have kept failing classes because I was so exhausted. Maybe I would have had to take another gap year because I would have been so burnt out. Maybe I would have not shown up as my best self in the relationship I have with others and the relationship I have with myself because I was just so wound down. So I found what works for me. I am in school part-time. I am working full-time. I take classes remotely so that I can get it in when I can fit it in. And that works for me. Would it be wonderful to be able to go to classes in person? Absolutely, that would be so cool. But that's not realistic for me. I'm in the corporate world. I work a 9 to 5. I can't sit in a lecture for 2 hours on campus. And I'm not gonna let that stop me. Maybe one day I'll be able to. Maybe one day I'll be getting a PhD and it'll be fully funded and I'll just be neck deep in textbooks and lectures and in-person communication, and it'll be beautiful and wonderful and all of the things. But for now, we are making do with what is available to us and being gentle with ourselves in the process. Whew, that was a mouthful. The purpose of me sharing all of this is just to say that if you want to go back to school, or if you want to do anything, if you want to pivot career paths, if you want to start therapy, if you want to start journaling, if you want to make new friends, if you want to set better boundaries with your family, if you want to move to a different state, if you want to learn to drive, if you want to get a pet, whatever you want to do, it is very valid for you to acknowledge the ways in which it feels impossible for you. It's very valid to acknowledge the ways in which socioeconomic factors or mental health factors or environmental environmental factors may make that difficult for you. And then it's okay for you to recoup. It's okay for you to carve out a path that might not be traditional. It's okay for you to do things that don't make sense to anybody else. This is not an original thought. I can't remember where this comes from, but you are allowed, and you should, disappoint other people if it means not disappointing yourself. And again, this is not me telling you that you need a degree from an elitist institution in order to be a worthwhile human being. It just so happens that the career field I have decided I want to go into requires one, okay? But you are just as valid of a person and just as whole without a piece of paper declaring that you are. There is no profession in this world that isn't respectable unless it directly harms people, but I feel like that goes without saying. I just want you to know that it's not too late. And I know that I'm only 23 and I'm really just a baby. You know, going back to school at 23 is really, it's not this incredible feat. It's not like I'm 50 years old, but it was very hard for me. It was very hard for me amidst all of the mental health issues that I have had to learn to live with and all of the life of it all. You know, it was hard for me, and I'm here and I did it and I'm doing it, and some days are harder than others, but then there's days like today when I get my progress report and it's beautiful, and I'm looking over at my pets and they're sleeping soundly, and I'm looking at the calendar and I have a date night planned on Saturday with my partner, and I'm about to head out to a yoga class, and everything is just beautifully aligned, and I feel so incredibly proud of myself. So whatever it is that you want to do, know that you can do it. Asterisk, you are completely valid in acknowledging the intersectionality of it all, the inequity of it all, the corruption of it all, the heartbreak of it all. Yes, you can do all things. Also, yes, it is not that simple, and you are not crazy. I hope this made sense. How woman of me, how female identifying of me to say after a half-hour long spiel. I hope that made sense. How very fulfilling my role of stereotypic society of me. But I'm proud of you, and I hope that this inspires you to take action on whatever it is that you can't stop thinking about. You know, go buy a paint set, go get a dog bed for the dog that you're gonna rescue, go sit down and have a difficult conversation with your parents. I love you. Yeah, I know that love is real because I'm living proof of it, and I have a lot of faith that whoever's watching this is somebody that aligns with me and the way that I see the world, because I don't think that you could sit through all of my ramblings if you weren't. Yeah, thanks for being here. There will be many college videos in the future. There will be many college week in my lives coming up, and I can't wait to bring you along. See you in the future.